it's Alan here, and this is the first episode of the Emerge21 podcast. So, the first episode today, we're basically going to do a little bit of an introduction about who we are, say hello to everybody, and just give you a bit of an overview of Emerge21, why we created it, and kind of what we're trying to achieve from this as well, because that's the important thing, what kind of results we're getting for people and why we're bringing people into our kind of our world of Bitcoin and talking around the subject and bringing education as well along to everybody. So, first of all, Chris is here as well. So, do you want to say hello, Chris, and jump in and do it a wee
Yeah,
bit?
yeah. You can tell you've done this podcast hosting before, much better than how I would have introduced it.
I'm not sure.
But yeah, thanks. Chris McLaughlin. I've been, a co-founder first of all of Emerge21 alongside Alan. We'll probably get into our backstory a bit as well and how we met. But yeah, maybe a bit of backstory for myself. First of all, and some people might have heard this before. I've done a few podcasts before, but yeah, briefly, education background is in business, studied economics, marketing, technology. Career-wise has been in technology for the last over a decade now, probably 12 years or so. So kind of with that background, I was always going to find my way into Bitcoin. It's kind of business, economics, technology mix. Probably not a too dissimilar story to a lot of Bitcoiners. When you hear, dismissive first of all of what Bitcoin was the first time I heard of it, I think it was around 2013. Read all the usual textbooks before on finance and investing. I was actually a student of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who I know a lot of the Bitcoiners aren't too big fans of, and that's all right. But some of the principles in investing are solid, even if they're not the biggest fans of the Bitcoin community, and vice versa. But look, interesting. And when I discovered Bitcoin, and when I say discover, when I first came across Bitcoin, it wasn't something that I've seen as a viable investment for many reasons. I thought it was a scam, thought it was a bubble, thought it was a way to extract money from people. It's not natural to think like that, and everything that we've been taught these days has been kind of this is how it's always been done, so this is what's always going to work, and learn from people's mistakes in the past. But Bitcoin's that real groundbreaking technology that nobody's seen before, nobody's came across before. There are obviously analogs to it, like gold, once you get into it, but it's digital as well. It's on a big network. It's on a platform. It's on a global network. These are all things that never happened before. You can see it as many different things: investment, savings account, technology, whatever way you want to see it. But it's not natural to think about it and come across it and say, "Yeah, I'll gravitate straight to that." Maybe if you were a gold bug before, I could see why you could move towards Bitcoin if you've been searching for something like that for a long time. But most people who are investors or even non-investors aren't going to gravitate to something like Bitcoin. So 2013, largely ignored it. Took a couple of years, took a bit of a shine into it because of price action. And I like to be upfront and honest. Price is what draws a lot of people in. I'm sure, Alan, you'll probably have a similar story to this as well.
Yep. Very much so.
Yeah. And look, that's the reality of things. Like no way about it. Price, even as it goes down, actually draws a lot of attention to it and goes up. But anyway, I'll not drag the story out. Came across it again, as the price was going up in 2015, 2016, said to myself, this isn't going away. It's a bit interesting. Dabbled in it, not too strongly. 2017 saw it absolutely rip, and it was phenomenal. That price action obviously grabbed my attention more. Crashed phenomenally then in 2018. Started studying it more. It crashed to a lower level. Like after a crash, it was a lower level than when I first looked at it. And if that was a crash, I was thinking, this is still, multiples of the price that it was after a crash. And you've seen that happen in 2013 as well. So all that activity drew me in, and starting to listen to the podcast, read all the books, really dove deep into it. And one of the key things that I did was, battle test it. Like you try and break it. You try and play devil's advocate with it. It looked amazing on paper, but how would you break it? So I tried that, and again, like looked at what's the worst case scenario, what could happen, how do you break it, and the more I pushed against it, the more I realized it's actually very resilient. So fast forward the next few years, I started studying it more and more, got a lot of knowledge, butted my head off the wall trying to speak to other people about it and convince people about it. And again, very dismissive. And I think that's just a natural journey, and that's all right. That's fine. You know, people get it in their own time. But I think then because of that frustration, I actually wrote a book called Why Bitcoin, very short book. It's available on Amazon, low cost. It was a project of mine that I wrote in my spare time over a matter of months, putting all the knowledge that I had to work. And yeah, started doing a couple of podcasts after that. That was 2020. I wrote that, or no, sorry, I started writing in 2020. I think I finished it in early 2021. And yeah, just been kind of doing a couple of podcasts, a couple of conferences since then. And now here we are, arrived at Emerge21, where this is really going to be my life from here. It's a passion to speak about Bitcoin, and we'll get into what we want to do as a company as Emerge21. But yeah, I think it was my natural journey, my natural path to find my way here. And yeah, completely excited to start helping people out and understanding Bitcoin. So I know that probably took a bit longer than a couple of minutes, but yeah, it's a brief outline. There's a lot more to happen in between, but yeah, that's me. And I know I've heard your story before. I think it's very interesting. I think it's slightly different perspective too than mine.
Mm.
But yeah, go ahead. Do you want to fire on
Yeah.
that?
Okay, it is. It is very similar. Well, similar in many respects, but yeah, ultimately, it's well, it's a journey, isn't it? Is a journey and a continual journey as well. But yeah, I started my practice. I'm an optometrist by trade, my day job, you could call it. So I started my own practice in 2007. Moved back home from England. Kind of got into kind of a repetitive pattern. You know, you're working every day, you're trying to earn money, you've got your head down, not really paying attention to what's going on. But ultimately, it was sort of coming into 2017. I was looking into other income streams outside my practice, was playing around a little bit with online business, and attended an online business course in Peterborough, which I was flying over once a month to. But it was during that bull run you mentioned in 2017. That's where I first really caught wind of what Bitcoin was and what was happening. Again, didn't understand it, didn't really kind of spend too much time on it, just realized that people were getting very excited about the fact the price was increasing rapidly. People were making quite a bit of money, people that got in early, and you know, it was the price that was really caught my attention, the price action. However, I probably at the time as well got a bit more distracted, and I think a lot of people do by the general crypto space. You see the Bitcoin price and you see it relatively high, and you see all these other tokens, altcoins, all that other stuff. And not knowing any better, you start talking to people, you start kind of looking online, you start hearing different things. And I spent a bit of, well, wasted. Well, it's a learning curve, I suppose. Time trying to pick different tokens and trying to make a quick buck. And it's for me, if you rewind back from when I started my practice and realizing from the financial crisis in 2008, you're really forced to do this. You're forced to try to, you know, put your money to work to actually stay ahead of inflation when you start to understand how things are run, how the country works, how governments work, how money works. So trying to kind of make a quick buck, as I said, on something that you could put a little bit of money in and get a higher return. That was quite appealing, and a lot of people were playing with that. And you know, yes, you're putting money in that you can afford to lose, but ultimately, you know, the allure of that was quite tempting. But then, sort of go forward a few years in that space, I kind of ignored it then from 2018 because, as you say, everything crashed down to quite a low. I think it went down, was it to £2,500 or $3,000 at one point in 2018, and I just really switched off from the whole space. I didn't really, you know, pay much attention to it. And then COVID came, 2020. My business was closed. There was no income coming in. I was looking at the world around me thinking, where's all this money coming from? You know, the US printed trillions of dollars, flooded into the economy. Inflation went rampant. And, you know, I was sitting back thinking, well, hold on a second, what am I going to do? How does money actually work here? Because I never asked myself that question, like what is money? And once you go down that rabbit hole, and once you then start sort of joining the dots together, and realizing then what Bitcoin actually was. And it took me until 2022. Again, unfortunately, I got sort of sucked back into the crypto space again, looking at a few projects, a few options to see if I could, again, earn a bit more money outside of my business, which was closed. But then that leads you down a path that's maybe not the best way to go, because again, it's just a casino. You're chucking money at things, you're gambling in a way. It's all speculation, and it took me really until kind of early 2022 to actually start to realize it hit me really hard. I spent time studying Bitcoin, reading all the books, the Bitcoin standard, going into detail, and again, as Chris said, trying to break it because you start, playing in the space in the crypto space, you realize all this stuff's nonsense. And then when you draw, you bring yourself back and look at Bitcoin again, you assume, or at the time I was assuming it was all, together. It was all the one thing. And a lot of people make that mistake. They clump it together with everything within the crypto space. And even the word crypto, and I say it gives me kind of the creeps, so to speak, coming into Halloween. But it's now when you realize what Bitcoin is, when I realize what Bitcoin is and spent the time, thousands upon thousands of hours studying Bitcoin, realizing what it is, you just don't look back. You don't look at any of this other stuff, and you realize how, hard side money that's again something that we've never seen before in our lifetime. We've never had in humanity this monetary system that's totally decentralized, that's totally secure, that brings really hard sound base layer money to the economy and to the world, to the global economy. And when you start to realize the bigger picture and the magnitude of what this means for you as an individual, for you as a business, and for the global economy, then it's a very important mission to kind of work towards and spread the news and information about what Bitcoin is. And I think that's where we've come to with Emerge 21. And I suppose our paths and where we met as well. Like it was an interesting story. Do you want to take over with that? It was the Bitcoin hub. We kind of first, I suppose, were introduced to each other and kind of where our paths first crossed. Chris, isn't that right?
Yeah. So a good friend of mine, who's also a Bitcoiner, basically, yeah, started a Bitcoin meetup, and that's a great way for Bitcoiners to meet, and I think very like-minded people as well. Introduced myself and yourself. I know we touched base a few times, chatted, realized that we were kind of very aligned in how we think about Bitcoin and its impact in the world, and that was the main thing. Like you can think of it as an investment, but what you just got into there, Alan, was it's much more than investment or savings. It's something that changed the world, and the more we talked, the more we spoke up to each other, the more we realized that 100% aligned, and not just even in Bitcoin. I think our outlook in life as well was very similar. We did the Bitcoin Ireland conference then, so Alan had a talk, I had a talk. We met down there and again in person a few times even between then, and just got on very well. And I think it's that alignment of worldviews that's made us take this path for Emerge21. And I think the main thing is, and everybody's been across this too, is you see it as a solution to a lot of the problems, like a lot of the world's problems, but it's difficult to get that message through. So what we're doing with Emerge21 is trying to get that message through to people in different ways and different formats. One of the main ways is by speaking personally to people. Now you can put online courses out there and you can put automated courses out there and things like that. Our brand is going to be built on a personalized touch within the Bitcoin community and beyond. Now our main reach, I think we're asking for help from the Bitcoin community. It's a strong community. It's a great community. I've made a lot of friends there. But that's not who we're targeting. The Bitcoiners know Bitcoin. Not to say that we're beginners as well, because as Alan pointed out, he's done thousands of hours. I've done thousands of hours of study on this. We're well knowledgeable, but our target audience is looking at people who don't yet understand Bitcoin and maybe have an interest in it. And that's it's an untapped market, first of all, but it's a very difficult market to break. And I think the sooner, I suppose the key message is the sooner that we get onto a Bitcoin standard and the base layer of money being Bitcoin, again, it's not a silver bullet to solve everything, but it solves a lot of the world's problems. I think we get, things like our time back, first of all. I think, wealth gap widens. I think it's actually a more peaceful, less stressful world. And now this is all very philosophical, but that's the rabbit hole you go down, and the realization that you come to, that the money that the world is built on at the moment is broken, and it flows into that corruption, I would nearly call it. Well, I would call it.
Yeah.
Flows into every part of our lives, and it's changed how our incentives work in the world. And I think the world is a different place on the money that we have now. And I think if we restore to a hard money standard, like what we were under a gold standard for many thousands of years, then we actually get back on track as humanity. I don't think there's any denying that people think that there's something wrong at the moment, and you see this all the time. People are going, something's broken, but not a lot of people can put their finger on it. One of the things I think we attempt to do in Emerge21 is, first of all, get people to realize that. I think most people realize there's a problem, but realize what the problem is, and at the core of that is the money system. And then the solution can come later. Like people can realize the system is broken, and the money system is broken, but they don't have to go to Bitcoin. Now, it's up to us and our job to make people realize that Bitcoin is an option out there, and it's, to me and to Alan, by far the best option that we have to fight against a corrupt money system, but also to move in a positive note to a brighter future. So look, we met, we're aligned, we're passionate about what we do, we're passionate about teaching people, and that's the reason why we set up Emerge21.
Yeah, and it is. I think that's the thing for me too. It is a challenge, and you know yourself, Chris. Even trying to explain Bitcoin can be quite challenging. Again, people have taken information from the headlines of the mainstream media. They haven't really scratched onto the surface of what Bitcoin actually is, and they totally dismiss it. As I did, and as you said yourself to start with, you need to be a skeptic. You need to approach it like that. You need to try to break it. But I think as well, personally for me, the journey that I've come on, yeah, in a way, I'm going through that kind of journey of, going into a few of those crypto things and realizing that, that's not right. It doesn't feel right, and you don't have any control, and things change, or the company that's running this particular thing, changes their ideas, and everything goes, totally out of your control. And I think I'm coming from a point on that journey of going through that pain of trying this and testing these things, and unfortunately for me, yes, losing a bit of money along the way, but ultimately, for me as well, is trying to meet people where they're at and trying to get them to understand what Bitcoin is from the outset, and sort of navigate away from all this other noise that's in the space, and then totally sort of dissect that, have Bitcoin as its own entity. Everything else in crypto land is all that other nonsense. You don't have to ignore it. You just have to put it to the side, focus again solely on Bitcoin, get to learn about it, get to understand it. And it's not for me or for you to convince somebody that, you got to use Bitcoin, you got to do this Bitcoin thing. It's for you as the individual to, get the information that we're giving to you, that is not specific information that we're giving out, but it's information that's there, it's out there in the public domain. And ultimately, when Bitcoin's, it's based on mathematics, it's based on the laws of nature. There's principles in place there that anybody can go and research by themselves, but it does take, as we've found ourselves, it takes literally hundreds to thousands of hours to actually get to that point by yourself. But what we're trying to do is, with Emerge21, what we say is that we're trying to accelerate the kind of the understanding and the educational aspect around Bitcoin, so that people can get to that point quicker. And that's the challenge, and it is a challenge, but it's something that I'm definitely passionate about, and it's something that I just want to spend more and more of my time, and my future on doing this, and that's with Emerge21. That's where I see myself, working with businesses, working with individuals, and working alongside Chris to try to create this ecosystem for having a knowledge base and a truth-based system, what Bitcoin is. Ultimately, when you realize Bitcoin is, truth, and it's an open source system that, can't be manipulated, can't be hacked, can't be, messed about with. And comparing that to the current economic financial system, when you start to unpeel the layers of the onion, so to speak, which is what we intend to do with anyone who comes on to either the Bitcoin breakthrough or within one-to-one sessions as well. It's really unpeeling that onion and realizing sometimes what you think you know about finance and the financial system and potentially about money might not actually be correct. And you have to put your ego aside. It's certainly something I had to do. I had to sit down and think to myself, well, at that point in time, I was running a business for maybe what, 12, 13 years. And I didn't have a clue what money was. I really didn't know. I didn't understand it. I didn't know. I was just working for this particular currency to try to save or invest, but didn't spend the time ultimately realizing what it is and why the system's broken. And then didn't really know why Bitcoin or how Bitcoin was a solution to that. So that's the kind of stuff like we'll be delving into and really bringing that to people from the outset. And as I say, it's trying to cut through all that noise and bring you the key concepts of what you really need to understand and know to get a grasp and a fundamental understanding of Bitcoin itself.
Yeah, I think we have two main challenges, and again, there's a lot of passionate Bitcoiners out there, and I love the education space in general. There's people doing this all over the world.
Mm.
What we're trying to do again is condense things down so we can accelerate it. Not to say that we're any better than anyone else, but this is our contribution to what we find is probably, well, the most profound thing that I've found in my life is Bitcoin, but also, morally, ethically, an unbelievable thing to be involved in. So that drives you forward for sure. I think the two main challenges that we have is one, first of all, being able to explain Bitcoin in a manner where people can actually understand it. Like Bitcoiners, a lot of them who were meant to get it has probably already got it by now. Curious people in general, people who are looking for something like Bitcoin have found it. Probably reaching, I don't know the statistics, but maybe 5 to 10% of the world. Like people say, 99% of the world still don't understand it. I would say there's Bitcoiners there that's the people invest in Bitcoin, sorry, that don't actually understand it, so their conviction isn't high. That's something that we could work on as well. But there's huge amount of people out there that don't understand it. So the first one is explain it to people who maybe don't fully care about it. First of all, and it's an interesting topic maybe that they want to get into. There's people in there that want to understand more naturally, and again, I think price action will probably dictate how many people will come to Bitcoin. I think that happens every cycle.
Yeah.
So the first challenge is, seeing if we can get people who have small interest in Bitcoin to have a bigger interest in Bitcoin and understanding Bitcoin. But the second one is, getting that reach out to people. Again, I know that more Bitcoiners are going to listen to this than non-Bitcoiners, but like our challenge at Emerge21 is to get outside that echo chamber. Like let's call a spade a spade. Bitcoiners talk to each other all the time. We like each other's posts. It's great. Some amazing content out there, but that's not really breaching the market that you want to get into to make this go mainstream. So our challenge is to find different ways of speaking to people outside the Bitcoin community, as well as obviously keep interacting with the Bitcoin community as well, because it's so important to Bitcoin itself. So those I would say is main challenges that we have at the moment, but excited for tackling them and seeing what we can do. And again, you meet new people in this journey, and that's also a massive thing. So just
Yeah.
overall excited for it. I know we haven't really touched on what we do and what we're offering. Do you want to talk about blogs, podcasts, contents, or breakthrough, whatever, Alan? Maybe just touch a bit on what we're planning to do over the next
Yeah. Well, I
months.
think we have different options for people, and we're going to expand the kind of options we have as we go forward and develop this. But yeah, like it again, as I've said, it's one of those terms that's it's kind of put about quite a bit in the Bitcoin community to try to, as we say, orange pill people, but it's meeting people where they're at. And as you say, like people know and realize there's a problem at the moment. If you look around the world, there's economic problems, there's societal problems, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's really a kind of a bit of turmoil. Well, there's constant turmoil effectively, but it's trying to figure out like, again, from an individual point of view, we're going to be offering one-to-one consultations for one thing, where people can jump on with us, can discuss, just define first of all on a discovery call, which is a free call, kind of what you want to get, what level of knowledge base you have currently around Bitcoin, where you want to take that, and what you want to achieve, or what do you want to, what do you want to get from that? And we can create a customized sort of plan for an individual or a group of people around that, and sort of get a knowledge base from that point of view, and really just expand on that, and try to break down the different layers, and why Bitcoin's important, and all the issues we have in society, and tie all those knots together and relate that. Um, and then we've got the Bitcoin breakthrough, which is it's basically an online summit. So I think we would probably end up probably pushing people, Chris, towards that initially. If you're like a beginner, or you want to know, if you don't really know a lot about Bitcoin and you want to know more about it, probably the online summit would be the best place to go. Would that be right?
Yeah, it's kind of like a crash course, I suppose.
Yeah.
Again, thousands of hours to really understand it, but what we've tried to do over a period of time is create content that will really condense it down, so that somebody can learn over a short period of time of 5 days. And this isn't, 5 days of 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, or 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. It's an hour, maybe 2 hours max, in a day over a 5 day period, where we think that we've covered enough to get people to a good level of understanding of Bitcoin. Now, everybody has to do their own research after that, but it should give them, it'll save you basically going around. Like, again, I've listened to, I don't know how many podcasts, YouTube videos, read how many books. Not everybody has the time to do that. So we want to try and bring them as much information condensed as possible. You can go on YouTube and listen to the next 10 Michael Saylor, Robert Breedlove, whoever you're into, listen to their podcasts. But there's a lot of, I would say, waste in between that, and good content, but waste when you're trying to specifically learn about Bitcoin. There's the philosophical talks. There's there's going to be jargon in there that isn't relatable. If you want to learn Bitcoin, like, to me, you put together something that's going to teach people about Bitcoin in the most direct way possible. So yeah, I don't want to call it a crash course, but that's essentially what it is. You're going
Yeah.
from whatever level of understanding you are to the next level, and we can tailor that as well, to the audience, and as we go along, we'll tweak it to refine it, and we'll get better at it over time, and that's our commitment. There's a couple of other things, Alan, I suppose we want to do. Like, that's obviously the business side of things. And that's more of a formality. So the two products, it'll be one-on-one coaching, or one-on-one consultation, and the virtual summit, and that we'll have the breakthrough. But I think we're committed as well to producing content for audience. Who knows who'll pick this up, and I know even this podcast is content, when you think about it, and we're committed to doing a podcast probably one a week from here, maybe get guests on, and build that out.
Yeah.
Now, that's just free content to the audience. Like, maybe 2 people listen to it. This podcast, maybe 10 will listen to it, but I think if you keep churning it out over time, if anybody studied network effects and Metcalfe's law over time, if one person sticks with it and learns about it over time, they're going to eventually tell someone else, and that's how these networks grow. So
Yeah.
it's not always about maximizing profitability and stuff like that in the business. Like, you grow the footprint of Bitcoin in the world, and that's our aim. As well as the podcast, we're going to write content as well, so blogs. They'll be on our site, Emerge21.com. So being consistent with content, I think, is a key thing. We'll post on social media as well, not just the hype stuff. We'll try and post educational stuff. That's a key thing. But yeah, between social media content, podcasts, blogs, they're all free things that we'll do as a company. And then again, if anybody wants to dig deeper and wants to speak to us, we're there. The website, again, emerge21.com, is there. Log on, look at the times, availability slots, and book in. Look out for the breakthrough summits that'll be happening regularly enough, and join those. And if it's not for you who's listening, and you're already a Bitcoiner and you have family members, I know, and I think, Alan, you've expressed this before, the people closest to you are sometimes the hardest people to orange pill. They're the hardest people to help understand Bitcoin. But if you have someone like that and you think they're semi-interested, but you're just not able to get the message through, I don't know why this is a problem for a lot of Bitcoiners, but just send them our way. Like, just even a consultation call, a free discovery call, it mightn't work out, but
Yeah.
it's worth a shot if you think it's going to make their life better. Yeah, we're there to put that personal touch on it, give a different
Yeah.
perspective, and yeah, hopefully help someone out.
Yeah. Sometimes it's easier when you're talking to like a stranger about it. People pay more
Don't know what
attention.
it is, but
It's
yeah,
strange. I have
yeah.
issues like family members at times. It's really difficult to communicate this kind of stuff. And I suppose I would say as well, like, it's a practical aspect of using Bitcoin. Like for me, I have an optician's practice. I integrate Bitcoin into my business. I accept Bitcoin as payment. And it's just showing people and showing, especially from a business owner's point of view, it's like showing people how to do that kind of thing as well, how to integrate it within your business, within your life, putting Bitcoin on your balance sheet, the importance of doing that, the reasons behind doing that. And it all ties into that same context of, just getting a bit of education and background around what Bitcoin actually is. And, it's just a matter of building that out. And as you say as well, like it's this kind of social layer. Bitcoin is this it's a crazy thing when you actually break it down, but it is creating a new social layer from the grassroots level up, as opposed to this top-down system that we're currently in, where everything's so controlling and controlled. But the fact that it's built on this system of openness and truth effectively, so it's just it's a crazy thing, and it's when you start again, I think that's the problem when you start trying to explain to people around it from the outset. People sometimes think you're a bit mad, a bit crazy.
Maybe we
Uh,
are.
yeah, in a way, but when you can back it up by factual information, by math, by the laws of nature, you got to break it down through these layers to actually fully, at a first principles level, understand what it is. And once you have that kind of conviction around it, it makes you think of the world slightly differently too. Well, very differently. Would you agree, Chris, with that?
Oh yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's that's
yeah,
that's the crazy thing about it. And for me, that was the game changer after COVID. It wasn't just COVID, but it was actually learning about this stuff, learning about money, learning about Bitcoin, and kind of life has never been the same since, nor business for that matter. It's strange, but it's a it's a positive thing, and it's hope for the future. That's how I see it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it changed your worldview for sure. I think it makes people more critical thinkers. I think makes people take more responsibility. I think relying on government less is a big thing.
Yeah,
And being more self-sovereign in multiple ways. So yeah, it changed your life literally. I love Max Kaiser's phrase, and this is for the non-Bitcoiners out there, like Bitcoin is virtually impossible to change. And Max Kaiser, his phrase is, you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. And it's happened to many people. People have came along and they've tried to actually change Bitcoin and they thought that they could do better. And then they do the research and they dig into it and they again try and break it and realize they can't. So they just go along with it. And that's the natural path that, now millions of people have taken and, eventually everyone will take because you'll realize, and probably not everyone, there's always going to be people who reject things that are mainstream and built into society naturally. But 99% of people will use Bitcoin in the future, and that's inevitable in my view.
yeah. And again, what pretty much what we will be doing as well is just, when you ask the logical question, through each phase of what Bitcoin is, why it's important, where to come from, how is it going to improve the future. When you actually ask the logical questions and you can get the logical answer from that as well, it is very it's a game-changing thing. Like it's again hard to explain in just a matter of minutes to someone what it is. So that's why, yes, if you spend thousands or hundreds of thousands of hours yourself studying it, you get there. But I think it does take that length of time by yourself. But if we can try to expedite that for people, that's what we're here for. And that's what we want to do, and just get more people aware of what this is. And with the way things are going, obviously we don't really talk too much about price action or anything as such specifically, but it's a good time to get to know about this, definitely, especially what's happening towards the end of this year and potentially into next year and beyond. It's a good time to get on board with that and realize what we have here.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, and we'll actually talk to people. That's I think that's the main thing. Like I would have loved to back when I was trying to learn about it. I like research anyway in general, so it would have been fine. But imagine you have a resource there just to tap on and just to ask questions to just to have a conversation with is invaluable to most people, especially in a time constraint world that we live in today. Everyone's busier than ever, and that's actually a symptom of the broken money system as
Yeah.
well, which is it's catch-22 for people really. You need to learn about you need to understand what's going on, but you don't have the time to understand what's going on because the problem is the broken money system.
Yeah.
One other thing I don't think we should touch on before we wrap up as well is like the business objective itself. We are a Bitcoin only company. We've stated that no messing about, no crypto. It's not that kind of company. Um, it's straightforward. It's Bitcoin only. Now, Emerge21 is about emerging technology, obviously with a sole focus at the moment on Bitcoin. But we plan on being a multi-decade long company. We're a few decades off retirement yet, anyway. And I could see this. The way I put it to Alan a while ago is like we want longevity in this. Like we want to teach people about the principles of Bitcoin for a long time, as long as we can. But the internet, teaching somebody about the internet in 1990 is invaluable. People started companies there, changed their lives. Do you teach many internet courses today? Probably not. I see the same path of Bitcoin probably 10, 15, 20 years out, where Bitcoin will be common knowledge. You might know the ins and outs of it, but it'll be widely accepted. There'll be no demand for this. Emerge21 is about emerging technology, and in particular, emerging technology based on decentralization, freedom, all those kind of principles that go along with, again, self-sovereignty. So we're doing a research, obviously, on Lightning Network at the moment as well, and that's another one where we'll put the hundreds of hours in, and it's already well established, and we use it, and it's obviously a great protocol as well. Nostr is so Lightning Network is a layer 2 for Bitcoin. Nostr is another one. So communications relay protocol. Well, it's much more than that actually, because you can build full applications on it. Starting to dive into that. Now that content will come later. But there will always be another technology that'll drive towards decentralization after like Bitcoin will be here forever, But again, how nuanced it is and how undiscovered it is will change over time, and there will always be these new technologies that come along. So Emerge21 will be focused on emerging technologies for its entirety of existence. So we'll move, again, it's going to be based on principles of Bitcoin throughout forever because it's got 21 in the name, 21 million Bitcoin. But we will engage in other decentralized technologies to make sure that we don't fall into the habit that we're in at the moment, where we've just accepted the norm, went into a system of control with a fiat system, and it's very difficult to come out of it. So if we can educate people 20 years down the line that, all right, Bitcoin's accepted now, but maybe there's something else there. Everyone knows social media is a challenge. Can we have a decentralized version of social media? Like that looks like the way Noster's going to go. Are there other elements in our lives that we should have a decentralized version of, a freedom-based technology? I don't know yet, but that's the direction we're always going to go with this. Now, I'm not against centralized applications. They've got their advantages, and I think there's a world where there's both decentralization and centralization, and it's up to people to understand those themselves and choose between them. But decentralized applications never have the same marketing campaigns or advertisements or education as centralized campaigns, just in the nature of the business. There's always going to be a marketing team and a strategy team behind the centralized application. So yeah, we're going to focus on this long term. Again, Bitcoin only for now, but that's the direction we'll go over time.
Yeah. And like Bitcoin is transformative in many respects across many sectors globally. And the decentralization aspect, definitely for me as well, as Chris said, like looking at the likes of Noster, and I've been kind of working with and consulting with other individuals within the space, especially within the healthcare space, and looking at what's happening, what's being built. And the thing about it is, I think Bitcoin is always going to be that base layer. it's that base layer of hard sound money, and it's bringing that into any system, decentralized or whatever it may be, even centralized. Having that stability and that foundational layer, knowing that that's not going to be changed, it's incorruptible. Building applications on top of that, this is what's happening at the moment. And the likes of the Lightning Network, different layers on top of that, and Nostro especially, and across all sectors. And it's the interesting thing for me, again, from my healthcare background, what can be done with that the decentralization of healthcare records, so that people have their own, full ownership of their healthcare, and take ownership of their healthcare. Like, there's so many different spin-offs from that that can be only better for humanity and society going forward. So yeah, looking at all this technology and the emergent technologies that are happening and being built on top of Bitcoin, but having that knowledge, that foundational base of understanding what Bitcoin is, and that'll allow you to easier understand all this other stuff as well, that's going on, and what we'll be looking at going forward. So yeah, that's
Yeah, and that's part of the mindset shift as well, Alan. Like that a lot of people have. Like Satoshi, like I think it was Michael Saylor said, open the portal. But not just that, not just for the money side of things. I think it made a lot of people think differently about the world.
mm,
And I think a lot of these new technologies will keep popping up. I like Ferryment as well. I don't know if you've played with it yet, Alan,
yeah,
but
a little bit, yeah.
yeah, it's nice. I think that'll be community driven again. But yeah, we'll start doing the research and putting stuff together. We've worked on this since after um the Bitcoin conference in Ireland, and thanks to my good friend Thomas, who joined us up and linked us in together. Very very knowledgeable Bitcoiner as well. But since that, we've worked evenings and weekends on this, providing content and creating content for it. I would say there's probably well over 100 hours of content between visuals, charts and graphs and stories that we can tell on to try and get the message through, analogies. There's slides, and there's all kinds of content there. There's also walkthroughs as well of certain things, and a couple of video explainers and stuff like that. We'll do demos and stuff of how certain aspects of Bitcoin work. So all that together is to help people do it, to help people understand Bitcoin quicker. But yeah, a lot of work's went into this, a lot of time's been spent, and yeah, I think we've put a great product together. Obviously, it's my own bias talking about our own company, but yeah, very proud of what's put together so far. And yeah, always looking for feedback as well on how to improve it. I think both of us are fully committed to this, and I think it's going to be well, what I'm hoping for is that it's going to, in the name, it's going to accelerate the understanding of Bitcoin for the world. And I think the sooner we get to that hard money base layer standard of Bitcoin for everyone, I think we start getting things back on track for humanity again. And I'm talking, I think people think that we've had this massive, technology boom, the last 100 years or whatever. But I think we've probably made a lot of mistakes over the last 100 years, that if we were on a hard money standard, we would have thought more long term about these things. Like the couple 100 years before that were, in my opinion, bigger than the last 100 years. It doesn't feel like that with the internet coming along, and it seems like it's very fast paced. But a lot of the discoveries from the printing press onwards, and even before, were magnificent. And I think that's those kind of long-term visions that people had, and inventions and setting up businesses and starting up for the long term will come back again. I think there's a lot of short-termism at the moment, for want of a better phrase. And I think that changes. And again, our goal is to get humanity back on track by creating an education around what I see as and what we see as the best money that exists.
Yeah, absolutely. And education is key for anything. Like, it's one of the biggest things. And when it's such an important concept, like, money is the key economic energy that we all have. We need to live a life, or the life we want, the life we desire. So, grasping what it is, understanding that, and then realizing what Bitcoin is and how that improves things for everybody is, for me, and for as a business owner as well, one of the most important things that you could understand. because it drives a lot of your decisions going forward as well. Decisions that you would have never really thought about so much in the past, but when you realize how it all functions, how everything works, it does change things dramatically. So, yeah, for me, one of the most important concepts, definitely in this current age, and we're here to push it forward, push the knowledge out there, and get people more kind of tuned in to what is going on. Because somebody said this term as well. You don't know what you don't know effectively, and that's how I was up until 2020,
You
2022
question these things.
specifically.
Yeah.
Was that?
You don't question these things. You like
No.
nobody grew up asking what is money, where did it come from, who creates it, who produces it, what's its origins, is the money that we use today the same as the money that was used 100 years ago, not physically, but has it got the same principles? And
Yeah.
you don't realize that it doesn't. You just kind of go along with it, and more people are waking up to the fact that there's there is an inflation problem. At the moment, I think there's an inflation problem the last 100 years, but like some of these central banks are experts in encroachment. Like it's a bit here and a bit there, and before you know it, you've lost half your purchasing power over a couple of decades, and that's that's the real challenge. And you don't question it because it's incremental, it's small, but it all adds up. So, yeah,
It all adds up and it's shocking. It's like
yeah,
really
yeah,
that is the shock of realizing the realization is like, seriously, how
yeah.
did we know about this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say it's pretty hidden though. At the same time, like there's this question that always gets asked, like, are central bankers, do they believe that they're doing the right thing, or are they corrupt and hiding it? And you can make an argument for both, but either way, it's either incompetence or corruption. Because what they're doing is like they're they're stifling the middle class and ruining the lower class, like ruining the person society and stifling the middle class. They're basically, well, the middle class are dissolving slowly. It's going to end up in this system. It's going to end up with elite and everyone else, a two-tier system, and that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can get on that. That's probably a podcast for next week or the week after. We'll keep going with these podcasts, and I love the philosophical talks as well. And look, we'll try and get some guests on. Some people more interested than me and Alan. Well,
It's
Alan's already more
getting chatting.
interested than me, but yeah, we'll try and get people on and keep these entertaining and yeah, giving back really to people, like putting their knowledge out there for people to understand. And yeah, so
Yep. Good
Alan,
stuff.
anything else I know we didn't really have a plan, and that was probably the best way, just kind of who we are,
Yeah,
what
just
we do.
a brief
But is
brief
there anything,
introduction.
yeah, is
And
there anything we should cover for the intro podcast for Emerge 21? I think
no,
we've
apart from that,
probably, yeah.
it's just basically like anybody literally follow us along on social media. Like we started our pages there just literally a couple of weeks ago. We've only started posting, but we're going to try to put as much content on there to even just insights like background content and real life, real time content, our thoughts about things and just random stuff, but like really like personalized things as well, like personal to us and our kind of views on things and what's happening within the developments in the Bitcoin space and beyond. So yeah, just follow us along on the social media channels. We'll put the links below the podcast and in the notes, the show notes. And then check out our website. If you have any questions, you can get us at support@emerge21.com or just contact us via any social media channel as well. But other than that, yeah, hopefully come along for the ride. We'll keep this as informative and as entertaining as possible. And as I say, hopefully getting other guests on board as well on the podcast, and just interacting with as many people in the community, and bringing as much value to people as possible. But yeah, I think that's pretty much for the first episode. That's not bad, I think.
Yeah, I think we covered what we needed to cover. And yeah, look, if anybody wants to get in contact with us, Emerge21.com is the site. You can
Yeah.
get all the contacts, social media contacts, and email address from there.
And feel free to ask questions. Like that's what we're here for. Ask questions,
Yeah.
question everything. And yeah, we'll hopefully get back and respond or jump on a discovery call, have a chat, and see where we go from there. But yeah, that's it. Good stuff.
All right.
We'll wrap
Yes.
it up there. And until next time.
Yep. Thanks.
Take care.